What's up, everyone? My name is Lionel. Hey, I'm your host for LT Productions, and you are watching I Watch You Watch. We are covering Beyond the Gates, which is currently on CBS at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and also streaming on Paramount Plus. I don't know what week this is because I've been gone for a few weeks now with recording it, but I'm back. But it's episodes 84 through 88 that we are covering. Even Beyond the Gates had to take a week off last week, so my apologies. I'm still trying to figure out the greatest strategy for me to bring you my weekly review. I still love the show. I'm still in the show. I did watch the show, even though I wasn't giving you reviews. A lot of times I just run out of time, and I have to find a way to do it and make it work so that I can be happy and definitely my supporters can be happy. But thank you for coming to my channel. Please like this video in support of me. You can also leave your comments below. And if you're new to this channel, please subscribe. So let's get into these week's episodes. Okay. So we got things from a potential stalker, another stalker. We got sabotage. We got people announcing that the choir and the competition is out. And we got Smitty. That's getting very close to the truth about this whole Martin thing. And it looks like it's such a big umbrella story that affects so many people's lives as far as what happened to Martin. And now that we're getting that this happened 2 years ago. I said, oh, okay. Because I was thinking maybe it was like years before. No. But he's still having nightmares. And we're still getting flashes. They're becoming a lot more longer, and we're starting to see how other people are somewhat implicated into this whole story thing. We start off with Allison. Allison was Chelsea's old boo. Not really old boo. She was messing around with both the husband and wife, which Allison was the wife. Chelsea wanted to see a little bit more of Allison exclusive. Not saying that she wanted to break up the throuple, but she was very interested in Allison. Allison said, no, I'm really committed to my husband and we're just not going to do that. Well, now that Chelsea has moved on, she says, I want you back. Like the Jackson 5. I said, isn't that something when you did all the chasing and you did all of the, you did it. You presented yourself in a respectable way. And now that you're gone and now that you're happy and all that good stuff, even if it's really fast, now, look who comes crawling back after saying no. Anyway, she says, I miss you, baby. And why don't you just give us another shot? Chelsea was like, I'm happy where I'm at. I'm not going to give you another shot. Allison asked, can't there be something where you see Madison and also me? And she said, no, I'm committed to Madison. And knowing my history, why would you even suggest that I would think about cheating on Madison, knowing how my father and all that has done to my mother? And she said, no, I wasn't insinuating that. But obviously, Chelsea has just made up her mind that basically her and Madison are married. Anyways, she talks about stay with your husband, work on your marriage with your husband, It was brought up that the husband is kind of volatile. That's interesting. So y'all brought somebody else into your crazy marriage as it is, or is it an excuse to just make possibly Chelsea go, okay, well maybe I should give it another shot, or you making excuses at how to get out of your marriage? I don't know. But we're going to follow up on this by the end of this week about that girl Allison. All right. So Randy ends up approaching Kenneth. Kenneth is at Joey's gambling club. And he pulls a gun on him. I'll say Ken, maybe Kenneth. I'll be switching it up. Anyway, he's counting his money that he just collected from Dollar Bill, which is in the amount of $10K that we learned a little bit later. But this was hush-up money for Ken to leave everyone alone out of this whole situation and get out of town. But Randy said there's been a change of plans. Oh, it was $100,000. Sorry about that. So he ends up saying that I have to take it someplace. He gets back to the club. Joey's already summons him to find out what happened. Randy says that they solved one of their problems, but may have gained another problem in the process. At the time, he tells Joey that there was a witness. He thinks that there's a witness. And at this point, Brandy is just asking, look, I got to protect me and my own and all that, and I need to go away for a while. Could you support me at least taking my girl, and I don't think he's married, and child? Maybe we can go to California or something. I think it was talked out that they're going to go to Walt Disney World. And that's that on that. Smitty, he's at home. He gets a call from one of the higher ups saying to kill the story about Marcel. Well, Smitty wasn't going to just take this lying down. He ends up fighting for this article, and he's saying that, no, I'm really onto something, and saying that Marcel has been brought up in internal affairs before, and he wants to really find out what the totality of that conversation, if there's an investigation and all that good stuff. Smitty then speaks with his source and ends up telling him that Vernon was a witness for Marcel during this whole internal investigation type trial that they had going on. But also he's terrified. Oh, what was it? I wrote it down I wrote it down a weird way. Vernon testified. Okay, yeah, We find out that Vernon testified at his trial. So, Smitty heads down to the station and talks with Elon. This is Jacob's father. And they had a lot of small talk. Elon is basically trying to throw him off the chase. There's nothing really there to see. And Smitty threw out there, like, did you know that Vernon volunteered to testify on Marcel's behalf? And from that point, Elon said off the record, yes, he did go and testify. I think he said he heard about it or whatever. But he was, as a high-profile citizen within the area, wanted to speak up for Marcel. He was not sanctioned to come in or any of that nature. Later on, he tells Vernon what Smitty has found out, and he says, he's getting close to finding out the truth. And Vernon was like, I don't really think so, because all he knows is that I was testifying in good nature for Detective Marcel. Martin comes home. This part, y'all, is something else. Oh, never mind. I shouldn't have talked about the Elon scene, but I did. So, Martin comes home when Smitty found out about the whole Vernon situation. And Martin was like, I heard you were referring to my grandfather, and I just wanted to know what it's all about. However, he didn't stay on that conversation too long. He says that after he wraps up this whole Marcel situation, he's going to be writing a piece on Vernon, which is in good spirits. Basically, Smitty lied to cover what he's got going on. And somehow he's able to pivot the conversation to Tyrell. Tyrell comes in also, and he expressed how his day went. It was quite boring trying to be with Samantha as she's at the mall doing all these things, these girly things. He also made plans to go to the park to meet with one of his chess club buddies. After Tyrell had left the room, he circled back to Smitty about this old grandfather thing. Okay. And that's when he talks about the whole writing another article and all that. I'm jumping ahead, and I do apologize. I'm reading my notes and all that good stuff, but sorry. Vernon and Danny, they do meet each other at the country club. Danny sees Vernon and seems like that he's really distracted. And does it have anything to do with Martin? Does he have marriage problems? And then Vernon was able to switch over to Chelsea and Madison so swiftly. And basically, Chelsea admitted to doing too much as far as inviting Madison over to meet the family already. That she said that she's been a bit pushy, organizing the family meet and greet for the new couple. And then Vernon lets on that he knows about the relationship that she has with Andre. Now, Danny's a little bit upset because she's like, who told you, Mom? Because I told her in confidence. And he said, your mom loves you, da-da-da-da-da. And I guess while they're talking about Andre, here comes Vanessa. Vanessa is there so that her and Danny can meet. They have some things to discuss, and then Vernon ends up leaving himself. So Danny and Vanessa, they talk a little bit. Danny needs a place to rent for her new modeling agency, Dupree and Curtis. They talk about Doug's financial trouble. Danny says, I was there one night when I saw Doug at Joey's a gambling place, and wanted to know from Vanessa, is Doug having any financial problems? Vanessa says that everything has been taken care of. She said that she wanted to ask more questions to him even when he was there, but she figured that, it really wasn't any of my business. Vanessa does confess that Doug had some debt, and they took care of it. Somehow Martin then went to the country club, and he sees this waiter that's attending to Danny and Vanessa pouring water, and he automatically thinks that it's Ken. So he ends up grabbing him and all that good stuff, and then finding out that it wasn't him. He went outside to talk to the dude, and he apologized. The waiter was okay with it. He said, "I thought that you were Ken," and he said, "Well, Ken quit not too long ago." So he's like, "Okay, everything's fine." In that department. Back at the station, Elon and Jacob, they talk. They talk a little bit about Leslie's case. Jacob says that he found a scratch on Leslie's helmet that matched what was in the security camera for the accident, or on the night of the accident, from that motorcycle. So Elon ended up suggesting that Jacob quit talking to Smitty about this case. Jacob asked why, and he said, Marcel is a distinguished cop, and Smitty wants to make a name for himself. That's what he believes. Later on, Naomi calls Jacob, asking him to come, or got a text, I forgot which one. He gets up to the hospital. June is there. She ends up getting beat up. Madison is the one that's going to be operating on June, or at least one of them. I think she was sent into because of the trauma and got a specialist in because she does have a head injury. Later on, Naomi's looking at the picture that June wanted so bad and got back, where both sides of the picture came together. Naomi's noticing that there's a number there. And she dials it. And she starts talking a little bit and says, I have June's phone, and then click up. Of course, we don't know what's going on there, and hopefully we find out very soon. Martin comes home, and the first thing he sees is that Tyrell is playing chess with someone. And this someone is Kenneth. Kenneth turns his head as you see that Tyrell is looking at his game pieces to figure out his next move. And that's how we have this cliffhanger for Monday's episode. I said, wow, that's some audacity, sir. Yeah, but Martin sees Kenneth and playing chess with Tyrell. I said, how in the world was he able to infiltrate Tyrell's life like that? We're going to get into that in a couple of episodes. Okay, episode 85. Jacob and Smitty, they meet again. This is at the station. Jacob is mad for involving Elon and anything that Smitty has going on with his questioning. And Smitty said that he only wanted to talk with Elon to get his reaction to what Smitty knows. Jacob requested to tell him all info on Marcel and Vernon. And so Smitty does. And Jacob confessed that Elon mandated him to opt out of talking with Smitty. And Smitty says, well, okay, if you do or don't, I believe that I need to keep digging. Marcel ends up entering the chat as they're talking a little bit, and he's trying to derive Smitty from going any further with his stuff. And he's asking them, like, what are you guys up to and what are you talking about? And Jacobson and Smitty said that they are planning their karaoke night. Marcel doesn't bite. And he says that I know you guys are still doing stuff, looking and lurking around. A good reporter stays hungry. And then all of a sudden Marcel tells Jacob, please keep off record us being at the strip club. That's kind of a way to diffuse. Okay, well, this is all I'm going to give you. I don't really have anything going on. So Marcel's phone rings, and it is Joey. Smitty excuses himself, and Jacob and Marcel have a conversation and ask why did he manipulate Smitty like that into leaving. And he said it was because that he found out about Smitty has been looking into his bank accounts. And then he ended up explaining he first got $5,000. This was between him and Joey. There was a sting operation that was happening at the place, and he was there undercover, and he ended up winning that $5,000. The other winnings is in regards to the $500,000 in sales of a property from his now deceased parents, a home him and his sister did own together as far as when the parents did pass away. The sister ended up selling the home and giving his share to him in cash. That's quite skeptical. Jacob says, you know, your explanation would be hard to verify, especially now that the sister has passed away. How convenient. Marcel brings out an analogy, Smitty versus family. Marcel says, which family is going to sign your pay? Oh, he said, Smitty versus family. Which one are you going to choose? And Marcel says, which family is going to be signing your paychecks? Once Smitty got through digging through all of his whatever. Joey took it as a threat. Or who took it as a threat? No, Jacob took it as a threat. And then as Malone is walking away, Marcel, he says that partners, they look out for each other. So, back at the Richardson's home, this is Martin's home. We find out that Kenny is a chess buddy of Tyrell. And not as soon as he got into that door, Martin ended up escorting him out and saying he got to go. Bye. Tyrell was left very confused and also humiliated as to why he had to go and why did Martin treat him like that. Martin demanded Tyrell to cut off all contact with him. And then Tyrell says that, you know, this guy isn't really a stranger. They have been playing chess against each other for a few weeks online. Wow. Tyrell ends up showing Ken's profile to Martin, and he ended up deleting his profile and blocking Ken. And of course, Tyrell's going off on that, like, what are you doing? Da, 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 da. Why can't you trust me? And Martin was in his parent mode of because I said so. So he said, I'm the parent and you're the child. Martin gets a notification. It's Ken. And he says he's got to go out. He tells Tyrell to lock the door. Of course, Tyrell got something smart to say about that. Martin goes to Orpha Jeans and confronts Kenneth in regards to what are you doing? Da, 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 da. He said to demand Ken to stay away from his family. And Ken says, you know, you don't call the shots. Martin said the things should have been handled as far as getting you out of my life. And Kenneth said it didn't. Ken says that there will be payback because I was supposed to be paid and I was also shot at. Da, 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 da. And Martin's like, I don't know anything about that. I didn't know that happened. Everything should have worked. And Ken said, well, how do you not, what did he say as far as a politician? He said that, how do you know that a politician is lying? Is when he opens his mouth. He said, Martin, look, in normal circumstances, yeah, that could be true. But in this, I had no clue what is going on. Anyways, he says at this point, he wants double payment, $200K. And he wants it by sunrise. I said, Lord Jesus. And then Ken leaves. So at Bill and Haley's home, somebody arrived at the door. Haley was going to go get it right away, but then Bill said, let me look on my security cam to see what's up. And he sees that it is Danny. They ended up letting her in. However, Bill told Haley, look, be ready to battle. So Danny came in with a sweet potato pie and said that she's glad that the baby is doing okay. Haley wants an apology, not a pie. And Haley calls Danny insecure and desperate, as what you usually call me. Of course, this is all this back and forth, and then Bill was like, look, let me handle this, honey. Bill says that he wants to move forward as friends, but you keep coming in like this. So either you can apologize to my wife or walk your bougie, self-righteous ass right out that DAMN door. Well, Danny still stands 10 toes down, including the fakery for the pregnancy. And she says that she accuses Hallie of weaponizing a simple conversation and conveniently turning it into a medical crisis. Then Danny basically hands over the pie and says that she baked this pie from scratch, which they took it as she was insinuating that Danny poisoned it. I said, not one of Miss Minnie's chocolate pies. If you watch the movie The Help, you know what I'm talking about. After Danny leaves, she talks with Bill, saying, has she always been this unhinged? He said, yeah, but that part is what attracted him to her. I said, okay. So what are you attracted to now, Bill? Because we really know nothing about Haley. We just know her to be a potential gold digger and a husband stealer. So then Martin comes over and basically is getting upset because y'all are making this situation worse. And Martin lets Bill know what's going on, that Ken was never paid. Bill ended up sending Martin home after a few exchanges. He said that he got this handled. But Martin is not sure that he can handle it, and he just said, look, I'm going to do what I can do. All right, so Martin arrives back home, and Tyrell still wants to continue what happened to him. Why did you treat Ken like a criminal? Because he is. Smitty would never react like that. He said, Dad. They called Martin Pop and Smitty Dad. We all have to walk on eggshells to prevent Dad, Pop, from overreacting and blowing his top. So, really, Tyrell said, what is it? What is going on? And Martin couldn't tell him what's really going on with this, why he reacted the way he did to Ken. And then, in turn, Tyrell said, it's just another pointless Martin Richardson crash out. What can you say? My first thought is this: whenever the secret comes out and we know everything, I'm thinking that the children are going to turn on him. I don't know what Smitty's going to do, because Smitty is begging and pleading. But we'll get into that a little bit more. So I don't know where this is going to go. Smitty's still talking with Jacob. He does apologize to Jacob. You know, I did go get carried away with the whole karaoke story, trying to feed it to Marcel. And Jacob told Smitty that Marcel knows about him looking into his finances. And he had explanations for those mysterious deposits, those specific cash deposits. And it looks like since he got cash proceeds from a house sale, he thinks that it's a suspect, you know? All right, so Bill calls Joey. Bill lets him know that there's a problem, and Joey let him know that his guy skipped out, who was supposed to handle everything, but he has somebody on it. Ken is still alive, is what Bill told Joey. And of course, Joey was shocked in regards to that. Bill said, fix this now or everyone involved is screwed. I'm really trying to understand how Bill had a one-up out of this whole situation, because it looks like trying to hold that over the Dupree's head is not working in his favor, because he could be exposed too. So I didn't understand why, at least at the beginning of when the show came out, how he was really effective to make Vernon do what he needed to be done. So at Uptown, Ashley and Andre decide to go out, I guess to lift her spirits, so she returns back to the scene of the crime. First, she's hesitant on going in, but she ended up saying what? The reason that she was hesitant doing that, because this is where they broke up at and where Derek did propose, and they go there many times. Andre offered to take her somewhere else, but then she decides, no, I'm going to stay. And right before they walk in, they said, are you ready to turn some heads? And they proceed to walk in, and guess who they run into? Derek. And Derek is with a woman. He's with Shanice, of all people. Yeah, they out kicking it. Ashley's making all these sarcastic remarks, and Shanice is not being affected by it, but she's clapping back at Ashley and all this stuff. You know, look, I'm not boss here. I'm just a woman that wants a good time. I said, go ahead, Shanice. So Ashley and Andre, they go to their table and do their thing. Ashley said that she's shocked that Derek was splurging on a night out, knowing that he has a tight budget. Andre was like, well, maybe she paid for it. You don't never know in this type of situation. Da, 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 da. And of course, she couldn't understand why he was coming back to the scene of the crime. But Andre said, well, you came back to the scene of the crime too. So Shanice and Derek, they talk a little bit. He hoped returning back to Uptown would help him rise above the disappointing moment as far as Ashley rejecting his proposal. Derek thinks that Shanice is fun and interesting. With Shanice's background, she said that she grew up curious and intrigued by mysteries, yet she was pulled towards helping people. She wanted to understand how the body works and to help heal people. Derek gives a little bit of his background, is that he used to, I guess, live right near a firehouse station, and he would watch, and eventually some firemen took a notice to him and allowed him to come to their firehouse. And from there, the firemen told their stories in regards to what they found their purpose in being a firefighter, and from that he was inspired, and that's why he's a fireman at this point. Back to Andre and Ashley, with him being a jet setter as far as Andre, why is he slumming it with a first-year nurse? And he says, Ashley is the most interesting person in the room. Andre talks a little bit of himself because it's usually involving Ashley when they are together. He wears size 11 shoes. He inherited a fortune from his parents, and what he gets from photography, he donates it to the causes that his mom and dad believed in, and he puts it in their names. Andre wanted to know what he was doing right now to get her to stop looking at Derek, because for a while she kept staring at him, but now the attention, I guess probably talking about him a little bit, got her focused or whatever. Ashley wonders why Andre is single, and he says, everyone isn't meant for forever until they didn't, or everyone meant forever until they didn't. Basically, he doesn't believe in it because he's seen so many failed relationships. Da 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 da. He even had hope in his aunt and uncle, but they can't even be in the same room with each other. But he says that it may take one person to wipe that slate clean. Someone like you. As he takes her hand, Derek and them, they're leaving, and wishes Ashley well and says goodnight. And then Danny walks in and sees Andre holding Ashley's hand. And then next thing you know, we hear stuff slamming and bamming because Danny's in a rage. Okay, Andre. All right, so episode 86. This is Wednesday. Danny joins Ashley and Andre. Do I have any notes or some type of clip notes I need to talk about beforehand? I don't think so. But anyways, Danny's inquiring, okay, so what is this between Ashley and Andre? Da, 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 da. Both of them couldn't keep their story straight as far as what they're actually doing and what they mean to each other. But Danny was like, is the king of the revolving door making Ashley another one of his pit stops? And Ashley was like, are you? Andre directly describes the person that he was into, but now he's not into because of what this person was doing. He said he wanted something real with this person, but she could not let go of her past. She treated him like a toy. And then Ashley says, any lady that would let Andre go is crazy. And Danny said, valid point. This woman clearly needs her head examined. She's not crazy, but Andre says she's not crazy, but not able to move beyond understandable hurt. Danny asks, how did this woman fail to live up to his expectations? Frustrated that she kept hanging on to her ex. That's what was below his expectations for her. Maybe Andre wasn't worth keeping the lady's torch. Andre said that he had options and never left a woman unsatisfied, except apparently one. Ashley went on to the bathroom because she still was seeing the weird vibes. Da 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 da. Andre told Danny to drop the act and just to say that she's jealous, and Danny denies it. She claims that Andre is squaring with some naive woman, as Ashley is. Oh, I wrote this wrong. Basically, you're sitting up here with this naive woman, Ashley. It's quite embarrassing. And Andre said that you're just mad for throwing away what they had. And Andre couldn't understand why Danny was 1 minute defending their relationship to Nicole and then running after Bill in the next breath, you know. Danny says that Andre should have been able to handle it. Really, Danny? We'd be rooting for you, but you be saying some stuff just like, what in the world? You should have, if you would have stayed there and handled it, you would not have gone after someone so basic. She makes vanilla look spicy. Ashley returns as they're talking about being with a nurse, and she was asking, what was that about nurses? Da 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 da. She kind of just blew it off or whatever. And she, as Andre and Ashley are about to leave, Ashley asked Danny, does she need a ride? And she said, no, I'm going to stay to toast my empty house, my empty bed, my empty life. So I wonder how many drinks Danny's going to have now, you know? Quite crazy. Danny, as Andre was saying, you know, that was just too much. You should have just admitted that you're jealous and you still want him. So back at the casino, Joey is with Randy. Marcel has found him and brought him to the casino. Joey recalls hiring Randy when no one else would. Randy started thinking that he was smarter than him. Randy realizes that Joey knows that he took $10K out of that whole stash. He says that his intentions were to pay him back. And Randy was, again, they find out that Randy was traveling to Bali. He said, well, how was that going to happen if you're all the way over there? And Bali had a non-extradition law. So he couldn't hold him to anything if he was over there. Kenneth is still alive. Randy says that he indeed did shoot Kenneth. He didn't know where. He was still squirming around. But then when he went to shoot him the second time, the gun ended up jamming. So he ended up running. He lied about the witness because he was scared at how Joey was going to react. Joey deemed Randy of no further use to him. And just as Marcel is taking Randy away, enters Vanessa and Doug. Vanessa and Doug, they came through the door. Doug says Randy has had his back from day one, has he? Because he was pushing you to gamble to get into all this debt. Of course, he was a flip-flop type of dude, but hey. Anyways, Vanessa says that they followed Randy to the airport and witnessed Marcel retrieve Randy at Point. I'm trying to be YouTube friendly. Randy is coming with us. And Joey told Doug to get his wife together. And Doug refused. Randy leaves. They make this pact that Randy leaves DC for good, or else Vanessa would terminate her real estate and personal relationships with Joey. So, at this point, Joey wants to talk to Vanessa alone. Doug escorts Randy out, and he tells Vanessa never to interfere, as Vanessa still stands her ground. I don't care what you gotta say. So this is turning Joey on, and they end up having sex. So it looks like Vanessa's gonna get herself in a situation to where possibly Joey and Vanessa are gonna be a couple. She says that she doesn't want to divorce Doug, but at the same time, it's like, what are you gonna do here? Like, y'all are really more drawn to each other more and more day after day. But Vanessa loves this danger that she's in. Now, I don't know if Vanessa is his sweet spot all of a sudden. I don't know. But I think Vanessa should still watch herself. But y'all can tell me what you think. All right, so Jacobs and Smitty. Smitty got him a coffee, and he's remembering that Marcel was kind to him once by handing him coffee. But anytime that Marcel is nice to Jacob, it's because he wants something out of him, just as he was giving him that coffee beforehand. They both realized that Elon and Marcel were both running interference separately, respectively. Elon telling Jacob to lay off, Marcel telling Smitty to lay off, da 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 da. So there's got to be something there. Jacob was impressed that Smitty had played Marcel by making it obvious that he was looking into his account. Smitty said that people's masks fall off when they become afraid that their secrets are going to be exposed. Smitty believes that Marcel was paid to make something much bigger go away. Smitty also said that he's not letting it go. And Jacob, are you still in? Because this looks like it's getting deep. And basically, Jacob said yes, in so many words. But everything links back to the night that Martin claimed that he had gotten a flat tire while out with Vernon. Jacob remembers that night. He said that he stayed there that night and ended up colliding with someone. We don't see who it is, but we soon will know. Scotty reinforced that if what they uncovered implicated Martin somehow, he would have to stay quiet for his husband's sake. Afterwards, Smitty leaves. Jacob then has a conversation with Elon. We see the full flashback of whom Jacob collided with, and it was Elon. He remembers that Elon came into the station and collided with him, and he had taken off in a hurry without even acknowledging what had just taken place. Elon thinks Smitty is on a witch hunt, and Jacob disagrees. I'm glad he does. Jacob asked Elon if he knew what Smitty would see if he keeps digging. Then we get a memory flashback of Elon came to the station running out like a bat of hell. He was wearing his street clothes, and Jacob is stating that he was doing that, which he knows that is unprofessional for anybody that is a part of the department to come in with the regular street clothes on. Jacob says Martin had on different clothes from what Martin came home with different clothes on, basically. And he still has nightmares for whatever happened that night. And he's asking Elon to tell him the truth. Elon says that his search for justice was blinding him. And there was just simply nothing for him to tell. Stick to the cases that he can solve. And that was the end of that conversation. Martin's at home and the children are there. Samantha comes home and they're both kind of ping-ponging off of each other because of how Dad is treating them and also Dad's behavior, or Pop's behavior. So Martin is flustered because Samantha took a long time to get home after he already texted her and said get home immediately. And she said, I could not go home. It would be rude if I actually got up before singing Defying Gravity. If you have not watched Wicked, that's one of the most popular songs from Wicked. But I agree with Samantha. No, you can't. You can't just get up. Now I done lost my place. Lord Jesus. Oh. Tyrell says that Dad is overreacting because he allowed one of his chess buddies to come over to the house without their permission. Of course, both of them are ragging on Dad, you don't really have to do all this, da-da-da-da-da. And Martin demanded that the kids stay home tonight. And Samantha said, you know that I'm going to be spending a night at such and such house. They said, not tonight. It's not going to happen, blah, blah, blah. They get upset, and I think they go... Martin starts explaining that the amount of threats that he receives only increase because he is black and also gay. So we always got to be careful whom we let into our homes and into our lives, da-da-da-da-da. Him and Smitty have chosen not to share all the inherent dangers with the children. Martin refused to elaborate further, but the teens could tell that their pop was out of it. He was sitting there watching out the window, moving the blinds around, and it's just like, whoa, sir, you're quite paranoid at this point. The teens felt like that they were grounded and they didn't even do anything wrong. They end up accepting a feat and then go upstairs. Yeah. Martin ends up locking the front door and he finds a bat. And he sits on the couch with this baseball bat. Martin ends up falling asleep and dreamed of that night. Kenneth, he hears Kenneth's voice saying, "What do we got here?" Smitty came home as he tries to wake Martin up. He wakes up, and of course, Martin is in his normal frantic state. Trying to assure Smitty that everything was all right, but Smitty wasn't having it. He said, look, for once in your life, come on, or at least right now, be truthful with me. Smitty begged him to tell him what's up. He ended up crying because he's just so worried as to what this is going on. We see what it does to you, Martin, on a daily. It brings a lot of anxiety and panic. And he starts crying. And he said that you could trust me. Please trust me before the secret ruins the both of them. Martin says that he is only holding things back to protect the family. And then Smitty says, come clean, so that we can face things together. Smitty is locked in, y'all. Woo! That's a good man, Savannah. That's a good man. Martin ended up claiming exhaustion and replied, maybe they would continue the discussion in the morning. That was the end of that episode. Okay, I am back. Let's get to Thursday's episode. That is a winner to us all. Nicole. The processing and shock is over. And Nicole is laying hands, and I love it. I love it. It's time for her to really regulate some people. But before we get there, let's see where we're going to go. Okay, in Ted's office, Eva arrives. She brought him some type of drink. I forgot what it was. Ted is upset. He's finding out that his clinic accreditation was lapsed, and Eva should have caught that and done that. Because of this lapse, it caused them to be fined. He went off on Eva, but dialed it back and apologized to him. Then we see that Eva recalls that Kat had advised her to ignore the whole renewal thing. Kat was saying that this was a 3-year renewal and all that, but since it's been done, we're good. She did not tell Ted what she remembered. However, she did offer to pay it back out of her paycheck. And Ted said, absolutely not. However, you could tell that this is something serious and you need to really pay attention to. After that, Ted was like, well, I got to speak with Kat since she was showing you all of this stuff. I got to figure out what she actually told you and what actually went down. So Kat then comes into the office. Her and Eva had exchanged looks, per usual. And then Ted confronts Kat, hey, Eva forgot to do this, and now it caused us to be fined. And Kat said, well, I told her, and you should not have hired her. While we hear Eva listening on the outside, Kat said that she would never do anything to harm Ted or his business. At this point, Kat, I don't like what you did. I think it's one thing to just go after Eva solely, but when you put other people in harm's way because of what you have going on, that's not good. That's not good. And I'm usually in your corner, but you're taking it a little bit too far. If you have to undermine people just so that they are not a good fit, that lets me know that you need to step back. Anytime you got to manipulate. Then Kat says that Eva wasn't smart enough to catch on to the procedures. That's what she thinks. Ted says that he has a meeting with Nicole. And Kat says, are you guys getting close to a reunion? He said, well, negative. He's getting tired of her making him her personal punching bag. So he leaves. And then, next thing you know, Eva comes in. And Eva asks Kat, are you proud of yourself for the sabotage? And then, of course, Kat plays dumb. Kat says that Eva must have misunderstood her. Eva is certain that Kat set her up to fail because she is jealous to having to share her father. And then Kat called her trash. And then she gets on the subject of Laura again. She was saying stuff like, you can admit that you were you may not have ran into Laura, but you did help your mother afterwards. Where was it at? I done lost my place. But you helped Leslie after the fact. Kat dared her to admit it. Eva said, I think I'll tell Ted about her sabotage. And Kat called her bluff and said that she wouldn't. Why not? Because she thinks it would make her look like she was working to turn Ted against his real daughter. I said, Lord Jesus. Eva says that she cares about Ted and don't want to hurt him, unlike Kat. And then Kat said, is that all you got? No. She says, you are a selfish little itch. But she said, now I know I have to watch you. And maybe I'll take a lesson from my crazy ASS mama and pay you back the way you deserve. I said, Lord Jesus. Oh, getting into Leslie's head and doing the stuff that she do, it's crazy. So Leslie's had orphan genes, and Haley comes in. She stops Haley, and she wants to have a talk and all that good stuff. She feels that her and Haley have something in common. They are being ostracized while they're in Fairmont Crest. Both have had their own experience that it wasn't wise for a woman to had our own experiences of being rejected out of this community. He said, well, I'm good. I have my husband, da 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 da. And Leslie was like, well, it's not wise for a woman to hang her hopes on a man. And then Leslie says that I know you, Haley. You want to belong as much as I do. And then she says, what could we do to help each other? Haley seemed intrigued, but she ultimately backed down and says that she doesn't need Leslie's aid. Haley, you are a wrecking ball. And what kind of damage Haley could do if she actually put her mind to it. So we are about to get villain Haley, because this whole soap-washy, I just want to make everything right after taking someone's man in the trifling way you did. It's crazy. Haley leaves. But guess what happens? Haley leaves a tip, and Leslie takes it. And she also took Haley's unfinished toast. So it looks like Leslie is back to being broke. She done spent all of Ted's money. Yikes. And now she's looking for somebody to help her out. I believe that Haley is going to circle back around on her. At the hospital, Shanice and Ashley. Ashley comes in with an attitude. She ends up throwing her tablet towards Shanice. Shanice suggests that Ashley was punishing her for going out on out with Derek. Ashley says, well, you were out on a date with Derek, and I was on a date with Andre. And Shanice said it wasn't really a date. It was me thanking him for him being a service worker, one of those workers. And Ashley's like, why would you even say that? Then don't you think you need to take out the whole precinct if that's the problem? Shanice says that Ashley has a chip on her shoulder. Ashley says her attitude is an attempt at professionalism. And Shanice calls BS. And then Shanice is going on a little bit more about it. And then Ashley just yells out, like, can you shut up about it? As Derek is entering. Derek and Shanice are over in the corner, and she's giving Derek a quick little physical therapy exercises and also doing a little flirtation. And Ashley looks busted. So Haley comes to the hospital, and she has a follow-up appointment. She's trying to have a small talk with Ashley. Like, Ashley's not biting. She was like, we used to be friends. We used to hang out. Everybody had a couple, and I was the Lone Ranger. And you're still the Lone Ranger. When Haley did announce that she was following up with the doctor, Ashley remembered that Haley never had an ultrasound. Then they were going on a little bit more about pregnancy, and Ashley made sure that Derek heard her talk about when Andre and her delivered that baby. That was earlier on when the show first started, probably like March. Derek ended up leaving without saying anything to Ashley. So this is going to get crazy. And just very, two adults that just don't want to be mature about this whole situation. Haley comes back to her appointment saying that everything had gone well. And then she tells Ashley that she promises to send an invitation to Ashley for her baby shower. I mean, right now it's a little zygote. But okay. Pam and Danny. Pamela is discouraged because not much buzz is happening on social media surrounding their new agency that's going to be happening. And she's trying to brainstorm at ways to draw in an audience. What if we use Chelsea? And Danny's like, we don't really want to do that because we don't want to capitalize off of Chelsea's success right now that she has going on. Pam said, what about you? Danny doesn't feel that she is. She's a more older model right now. And Pam said older is in. And it's true because they are breaking these rules that they have set on modeling and all that good stuff as far as being in the entertainment business. And it would be good to actually see her get back out into it. While they are discussing, Andre comes in the door and says to Daniel, what do you think you're doing? Pam leaves or exits, and then they have it out. Andre says that it was an embarrassing scene at Uptown, and Danny said that I wasn't embarrassed. You can mess around with little girls or let a woman rock your world. And I'm kind of just breaking it all down so that we can get to the meat stuff. Next thing you know, Andre is picking her up and ushering her to her bedroom, and then they do what lovers do. But we know that he's not over Ashley, so I don't know what's happening. So later on, Nicole goes to Orphe Jeans. She's supposed to be meeting, I was about to call him Keith. Oops, Ted there. But anyways, Leslie summoned her over so that they can catch up. As she's eating this bread, acting like it's the best thing since bread. Saying Orphe Jeans put something in it. No, you're hungry and you're poor. You broke and you have no money. And you're too proud to ask. And when are you going to get a job? That's crazy. Okay, they start talking about Ted and what it was like being with Ted and how Nicole started talking about the whole Laura situation and all that. Just confess, we got all this evidence. Leslie saying that everything that you have is circumstantial and can't be proven in a court of law. So she said, if you want the truth, I can confess. She didn't confess to the whole Laura thing, but she started confessing to how Ted was really bored with her. She didn't need any trickery to get a sample of Ted's DNA because Nicole didn't mention, how did you get pregnant? Did you, what she says is that she believes that Dana did what she did to Laura to get Eva into the home so that it would be easy for Eva to get a sample of Ted's DNA. But then this is when Leslie said that she didn't need any trickery to get a sample of Ted's DNA. It was all over her blue dress in her closet. That's like 20 plus years of DNA. Are you Monica Lewinsky? Then at this point, Leslie starts reading Nicole down, saying while Nicole was at home having another one of her many miscarriages or injecting herself trying to get pregnant again, Ted was with her humping like bunny rabbits. I said, oh my Lord. He was not getting what he needed at home. However Nicole said it, she was just like, you had to trap him and get into getting a baby. And you really thought that getting a baby, you thought that you were going to trap him and he was going to run to you, but he did not come to a woman like you. And then that's when Leslie was like, well, are you just saying that you, Dupree's or someone, are the only ones that are worthy of a man, And Nicole was like, that's not what I'm saying. I wouldn't go that far. I'm paraphrasing. But she said, if the slut fits. So then Leslie decided to finish Nicole off by yelling that she was too stupid to realize that she was getting lied to over and over and over again. And then I loved every minute of it. I said, go Nicole. So then Leslie's so dramatic. Nicole got her into a booth and was choking her. Then she's all over this white guy that she landed on and all this stuff. She tried to kill me. Needing a cup of water. Ted blamed Nicole as he was walking in, seeing this happen. Nicole leaves and says, we have nothing to discuss. So then Leslie says that I need your help. It was all her fault, and I'm not feeling well. So then Ted takes her home like an idiot. All I know is Febreze needs to be on back order. Don't allow it to come into Nicole's presence because that calms her. We need more crash outs and just telling people where they can go. Oh, okay. We are on to episode 88. Friday. Kat, she comes to Orphogenies. Jacob is already there. And she's asking Jacob, they meet, when would they finally be able to put cuffs on crazy Leslie? Jacob's looking at her like, you are at it again? Get out of my face with all this. But Kat said, quitting is not in her to do. Jacob told Kat that he just learned that the scratch that's on Leslie's helmet matched the one shown on security footage of Laura's sideswiping. And then Kat said, we got that itch dead to rights. Jacob says that it wasn't yet to be proven Leslie was riding the motorcycle. Kat said, what more do we need? And Jacob said, surpassing reasonable doubt was not as easy as it is on TV. And the Kat said, the law is stupid. And then, Boy Scout Jacob had to say, the law has been designed to protect the innocent. So Smitty comes in and they give each other the eye. And Kat said, okay, so what's going on here? Of course, Jacob does not let on to what's happening, but he just says that he's helping Smitty with the story. So then Kat ended up leaving. But before Smitty got there, before he left the house, Martin came back into the home and he knew that Smitty was there. He hurried up and ran to get on his phone like he was making a phone call. He stayed on there and Smitty was like, we have to talk. And he was like, so then Smitty gave up and that's when he went on to Orphogenies. Anyways, Smitty talks with Jacob and says, he's caught between feeling Martin was in the thick of Marcel's shady dealings and wondering if he was just seeing what he wanted to see. Jacob suggested that Martin get lawyered up and counseled Smitty that they would have to part ways if Martin turns out to be more involved in anything illegal. Smitty says, does his lawfulness extend to the chief of police, his father? And if he already told Jacob too much. Jacob says that I don't believe that. However, if it does extend to my dad or whatever, then justice is justice. Whether it's Martin or Elon. Okay, so Jacob says that he has learned Martin. Oh, Jacob went to go take a quick call. And then he's learned that Martin has asked Marcel for a police protection. And Smitty wanted to know, is this political related? And Jacob said, well, Martin would not go to the local precinct for a national security matter. And then Smitty kind of blows up a little bit, just showing his aggression. Like, well, what is Martin hiding? And Smitty's appalled that Martin had let him leave the house without mentioning that their kids were in danger. So Jacob admonished Smitty to stop tiptoeing around Martin and not let up until Martin tells him the truth. Hopefully that works. At Uptown, Madison and Chelsea are lovey-dovey, holding hands and all that good stuff. Chelsea says that she feels like that she's in a legit fairy tale happy. And this is because of Madison's realness. Madison thought, should we be, she felt it too, but she did ask, should we be exercising at least a little restraint? She said, she talked with her grandmother, Anita. She questioned the speed of this relationship. However, she says, when you know, you know. I still think that they don't know. Madison is nervous to meet Anita because of her larger than life personality. She's a star. And especially that's how the world sees her to be. And also how important she is in Chelsea's life. And Chelsea said, you are all good. Because Madison didn't feel like she would measure up. She said everything will be fine. And she's thinking that maybe they can meet y'all can meet during the reunion concert. So Chelsea wanted to know more about Madison. And Madison says, I am more of a show than tell type of girl, meaning sex. So they get up, and then as Chelsea's getting up, she notices that Allison is over in the corner staring at her. I said, "Whoa, we'll get back to her in just a minute." Is there anything up front? Okay, so we can go on to Sharon, Anita, and Tracy. Anita's back in Chicago. She says, Anita, our voices, what I'm noticing while we're practicing, our vocals are good and all of that, but she believes that we do need some new choreograph to modernize their act. Sharon refused, and she was feeling that Anita was ready to push her and Tracy aside for something new and shiny again. So basically, Sharon was basically out. I was like, okay, y'all are too moody for all this stuff. Tracy thinks that fans wanted to see their classic moves. Anita says, fresh steps would give them their brand a timeless feel. Sharon says that Anita wants them to twerk and claims that Anita wanted to be the boss again. We find out that she took control of their hair and costumes during their original run. And Sharon is upset that Anita didn't sit down and have a conversation with her and Tracy. Sharon doesn't like it and says that they can take the stage without her, and she left out of the building. Anita wanted Tracy to take her side, but Tracy said, can't do that. And then Anita was like, so y'all are just going to make me the villain and not willing to see what Anita was doing was awful to do their best work. But Tracy says Anita is trying to reign over them, and they are not going to allow that. Sharon joins back and then double teams with Tracy. And they basically said, they have more stake in this reunion because we want to really relaunch our careers off of this. You can go back home and do your thing. You had the limelight. You had it all. So let us have it. So you'll take my money, but not my input. Anita says that she'll pay for everything and go home. So Tracy and Sharon would do the concert without her. And Tracy and Sharon said that they're not here for a handout at all. So Tracy assured Anita. Tracy has assumed that Anita hated them, and she said that's not true. We're sisters. Da 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 da. And then they start ripping into her, talking about we really know the true Anita, and she said, this comeback is just some way to right your wrongs, more than it was Anita wanting to show her co-singers that she's actually respected them and their opinions. I don't think that it should have went that deep, in my opinion. It's just like, okay, so Anita did take on a leadership role. Y'all could have said, calm down. Okay, let's discuss this. We don't want it, da 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 da. All she did is just say that. Maybe y'all could have had a vote. But y'all didn't even come to that. It was just like, oh, we're not going to say what Anita says. And you're just doing what you did last time. And I get that they're defensive and all of that, but it's just like nobody's hearing each other. You're trying to say that everybody just wants the same moves, but hey, if you want to still remain classic, you got to do more. I would say the most timeless group out there is the Clark sisters. The Clark sisters always evolutionizes themselves. And they gain new supporters and new fans all the time. They stay current and still stay true to their roots at the same time. I don't see what was wrong with what Anita had to say. Da 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 da. I'm sure that they could still incorporate some of the stuff that they did before. It wasn't that big of a deal. But then they wanted to rip into how Anita was this, that, da 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 da. Fine. You can have it. You can do it. Anita did allow that she was responsible for most of what happened. But she didn't want to stay stuck in that place. And also, you guys moved on without Barbara, too. I don't understand why they couldn't keep going on with their own careers unless they only just believed in Anita. I could go into other examples, but now everybody is respecting Destiny's Child for Destiny's Child. Kelly Rowland and Michelle, they don't have the same career as Beyonce. They didn't really respect Michelle's work, a lot because she was in gospel too. But she did go back and forth between gospel and secular music and doing other things too. So
now they finally respect Kelly and Michelle as great artists too. I don't understand why they didn't try to do something on their own, but hey. So Anita just said, you know, the choir and the competition are out. You can do your thing, and I'm just gonna go. And then she kicked them out. And I don't blame her, because you can't keep doing this. I admit my wrongs. I did this. I did that. Da 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 da. What else is going on? Basically, I think Martin was home and he was talking with Chelsea. Chelsea and Martin were kind of connecting in a way. Chelsea was trying to lobby for Tyrell, and even in what he did, she was bringing up a famous sports person or whatever. They're good at what they do and didn't really feel challenged, so they go for outside sources so to be challenged, and that's why Tyrell chose that kind of person to work with or whatever. Blah 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 blah. Samantha says, you know, I'm going to go to the park. Da 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 da. Stay connected. Martin says, and let me know when you're there. Da 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 da. Martin ended up following Samantha to the park where she was going, and we see Samantha talking to, guess who? Kenneth. Kenneth is there, and he's asking her to change some setting on his phone. And of course, we see Martin coming from down the sidewalk. I think this is the first exterior place, like as far as not shooting on the stage for Beyond the Gates. I said, oh, we outside now. That's cool. So you can see the horror in Martin's face, and I don't think that he's going to be as gracious as he was for his girl. So Kenneth, Ken, whoever you are, you may want to watch out, because you're crazy. You look like a creep now. I don't care how much you want to get back at Martin. You are really coming off quite weird. And I'm ready for somebody to check you for real. So whatever happens, happens. Hopefully you enjoyed this week's recap. I'm trying, I promise, to come up with different strategies at how to make this thing work. But I do appreciate everyone for coming to my channel. Please like this video, subscribe. And until the next one, peace.